Hope all is good with you. Took some time off, enjoyed myself, hitting it hard already for the radio show and everything else. Still watching crazy Hallmark movies as I do, and sometimes you just need that. We're going to talk about Venezuela, Greenland, all of the stuff today. But obviously, what took place in Minneapolis is a big effing deal. It's going to be a big effing deal. I'm going to tell you that right now. It's going to be a huge deal. Renee Nicole Good, 37, shot and killed by DHS. They say that she was trying to run them over and she was blocking ICE in their ICE is there in numbers, anywhere between 1,500 2,000 because of what's going on with the fraud and the Somalis and all of this stuff. And so I'm like, okay, that's why they're there. I mean, again, it's remember, so much of what goes on in modern politics is theatrics. So you got to have the numbers and the show, and this group's bad or that group's bad, and the left and the right, and they both do it. But this is going to become a story that's big. And trust me, Trump's like, oh, this is a good story. This is. So she was shot, and I'll just give you a quick descriptor. I'm not going to show it. A human being lost their life, regardless of what you think of the situation. You had a woman, and it's an interesting thing because it is a regular neighborhood. So it's a regular neighborhood. You had a woman, suburbia, and you have a vehicle here, and you've got a vehicle here, and you've got people getting out and exiting vehicles, some other vehicles here. You have one car that takes off around there, and you have this woman in a red SUV, Renee Nicole Good. She's 37. And what ends up happening is the two, and it's hard because everybody's, some guys have full black uniforms on. There was some people with tan uniforms, and who's part of Minneapolis PD, who's not part of Minneapolis PD, who's part of DHS. They approach the vehicle, and of course they scream, "Get effing out of the vehicle," and stuff. And remember, we're seeing the last 30 seconds or so. We're not seeing the subsequent several minutes. Was she doing something earlier? Did she try to run them down earlier? Because they're saying she's blocking the street. Then she backs up slowly, right, as they try to enter the vehicle and tell her to get out. And then she starts to kind of go, and there's a officer in front of the driver's side wheel, and he pushes out of the way, fires 3 times, striking her allegedly in the face. Again, I don't know. I've seen the aftermath of the vehicle, and I will say there was a lot of blood. And then the dueling narratives, right? So you've got Tim Walz and Jacob Fry, get the F out of here. And, DHS is horrible. That doesn't help anything. And because there's a lot of issues going on in Minnesota. Obviously, it's become a huge deal. The fraud, the abuse, the waste, the theft by the taxpayers with the, and it's all the Somalis. Well, it's a little bit more nuanced than that. And the investigation had been going on for a while, under even Merrick Garland, who, by the way, prosecuted the first group of people. But that's neither here nor there. That's why they were there. So what happened? Was she a domestic terrorist? I have no idea. Was she there to attack? I don't know. They said they found kids' toys. Apparently she was the mother of a 7-year-old. Friends and family who are speaking out. And again, this is where the narratives come in. They said, look, she wanted no part of this. She didn't know that's not who she is. I don't know. I don't know. It's so easy in today's world to run around and to just throw shit out there because that's what people do. Let's just throw something out there. We scream and yell, and we'll say something crazy. And I'm a measure twice, cut once person, which is why I don't do sensationalism bullshit. It's easy to do, by the way. It is. Even on my local show today, I was getting pushback. Oh, it's because you're a lefty and you hate DHS. No, it's because I don't know the story. I know the entire story. Oh, it's because you hate America. I'm like, what are you talking about? I want to know the story. Here's the story. I don't know the story. What I do know is it's going to be a big story. What I do know is there could be some issues tonight, which, by the way, I'm sure the Trump administration is hoping happens. Why is that? It's great. It reinforces what they want to say. This place is out of control. This is why we need to be here. They're rioting. We can't keep it. It is a great story for them. The Somali thing, they jumped on that. It was awesome, right? It plays right into the narratives. Look at all these people. They're evil. They're bad, et cetera, et cetera. We go on and on about that. So what I do know is I don't know the full story. And what I do know is there's competing narratives. Before she was even removed from the car, her lifeless body, apparently shot in the face 3 times, they had declared her a domestic terrorist. Okay. Which is you do that, right? And plus, if you can get people to say they're domestic terrorists, we're seeing what's going on. The narco-terrorism, you can throw all bets are off, throw everything out the window. It's a horrible situation. But I tend to come at stuff with this ridiculous thing called an open mind, and I want to know all of the facts. I want to know what's real, what's not. I want to take a actual look at something before you come up with. If your opinion is, let me tell you who's guilty, and then you can give me the facts later, that's no, that's not what I'm interested in. And both sides have dueling narratives, and both sides are doing something that's ridiculous by telling each side, you've got the mayor telling, them to get the F out of here, DHS, right? That doesn't help anybody. That it's BS. You don't know the story. You don't know the story. And on the other side, you're calling her a domestic terrorist. You don't know the story. You have no idea what it is. None of us do the full story. We've seen bits and pieces, but you don't know the story. And in today's world, nobody cares about the story. Speaking of stories, and again, we'll be talking about this on the radio show tomorrow. Venezuela, I told you guys for months, and everybody laughed at me. It's about the oil. And everybody's just, not about the oil, it's about the drugs. No, it's always about the oil. And it's not about the oil. People think it's about the oil. It's not about the oil the way that people think. Oil is a part of it. Absolutely. We seized those boats, the Russian boats today. And by the way, the Russian boat that we seized, I think it was called the Marinara is what it was called. Originally it was called, they changed it to Bella, but it's called the Marinara. It was going to Venezuela. And so I had talked to a couple of people today who said they were curious about, they knew there wasn't any oil on there, and there wasn't. The thought was there was military stuff, weapons heading to Venezuela, maybe to stop what was potentially coming from Maduro over the weekend, which is something we're going to talk about in a second. But it was always about it's not even about the oil per se in the way that, because there's so much oil right now. We don't even know what to do with it. And while Americans are like the people that don't quite understand the business of oil, $70 to $90 is a sweet spot for oil. It's in the 50s. In fact, let's take a look what oil prices settled with today. $56. Okay. So what does that mean? You're not making what you can be, right? So that's $70 to $90. And if it drops and stays lower, it's not worth pulling it out of the ground in certain cases. And if it gets way too low, you just, you cap them and you walk away and hope that it comes back, and the energy markets see massive, people laid off. If it gets too high, people get pissed, right? The consumers get pissed. So you want that sweet spot. There's plenty of oil out there. But it was also, it's about China. China likes screwing with us, just like we like screwing with them. Okay? That's the sum total of it is, does China want to be involved? They want to be involved everywhere. That's why they got the Belt and Road. That's why they got all the things that they have. They're not bothered by the 4 to 5% of oil that they're going to have to get elsewhere now, right? Russia, Russia's looking for any ally at this point in time. They are. So this whole we're keeping them away. This is not just about the oil, although that's a big thing. And Trump told the oil industry, we're doing this. And then you guys can go in. So when they came in and they took the infrastructure, really, because it was, because Trump's like, it's our oil. It's their oil, but we built the infrastructure to get it out of the ground in a lot of these places. And it's just all jack shit crap right now. I mean, it's all broke dick, as you can believe, because of the sanctions. They can't keep up the parts. It's, it's a lick of paint here, and it's over here. You got the zip ties holding this thing on. There's a lot of issues there, and it's going to cost billions to fix. When they originally came in and they took it all and they kicked everybody out, and everybody's like, screw it, we're leaving. They took them to the World Court of Arbitration, and they won money. Now, not as much as they lost, but they won some. And I guess Trump's pressure is, well, if you think you're going to see any of that money getting back to you, you're going to go in there and fix this. Why would you want to do that? It's not about the oil per se. It's about the business opportunity. It's the same thing. I saw Tim Dillon say this, but I've been saying it for forever and a day. Trump doesn't see tragedy. He doesn't see a hot mess that's going on. He doesn't see a problem that is a geopolitical issue. What he sees is dollar bills. Who's going to make money on this? The oil companies. Yeah. And the oil companies also want to protect certain areas outside of Guyana. That was a big deal as well. But he looks and he says, well, we got to rebuild this place, just like we got to rebuild Gaza, just like we're going to have to rebuild Cuba. That's what he sees. He sees business opportunities in these situations. Now, just tell me that. Look, it's good for America. Tell me why it's good for America. You make it seem like it's good for everybody in America. It's not. It's not going to. This didn't fix anything. Trump doesn't give a shit who's in charge as long as they listen. I mean, it's not about regime change. No, it was about getting rid of Maduro. You had to get rid of Maduro. You couldn't give in to his saying you can have all the stuff because you had made such a big flex, right? You like, check it out. I brought all my weapons. I brought the guns to the gun show kind of thing. And there was nothing else, you had to go in now and you remove them. And America's awesome. There's nobody better at what we do in these situations. That being said, Machado's not coming in. Gonzalez isn't coming in. They're the ones who, she was barred from running in the last election, but it was her movement and her party, and Gonzalez was her second in charge, and he ended up being president. He's not going to take over. First of all, for several reasons. One, and I think this is important, you don't have any of the military infrastructure, the guns, the weapons, and the power to sustain yourself if you got in there. That's probably the biggest part. And two, I don't think Trump trusts either of you at this moment in time. He doesn't. And he looks over at Delcy Rodriguez and says, who there's probably a good chance she snitched out on old Maduro there. And looks over and says, for now I can do business with you. What is she? She's the oil minister before she was now their president. It's not about democracy, right? Like, do you really give a shit about democracy in any of these places? No, we always talk about, we need freedom and democracy. Nobody cares. You don't, as long as it doesn't affect you, you don't give a rat's ass. You don't. You don't care. You don't. But be honest and just tell me what's going on. You don't have to bullshit me and say, well, it's about the drugs because they got the things and the whoop-to-wops and, you got Marco out there going and JD Vance and it's this. It's none of those things. It was about business opportunities. We're going to get 30 to 50 million barrels and we're going to sell them and we're going to do this and it's going to be great. And I said, let me tell you how this is going to work for the Venezuelan people. Picture you guys, Venezuela, as a band and we're the record label. And we have done all the marketing for you so far. We have given you in advance, i.e. we came in and we snatched this guy out and that cost a lot of money. We moved people over there and all of these things have happened. And in doing so, we're going to sell and control your oil for a while until we make back what we think we have put out. And then we'll split it from there. The question is, how long does this go on? Because you've got a few players that are there that control the military and the police and who are some bad hombres. And I want to see how long this goes on before it devolves into chaos and craziness. because it's going to happen at some point. Because the one thing I've said for years when it comes to the US is we are really good at the first part. We are shitty at sticking the landing. We do not stick the landing. And what is your play here? And then you've got the South Beach, South Miami, Mar-a-Lago folks out there who want to see Latin America become, MAGA America, and want to see Cuba in particular fall. And Cuba's close to tipping over. I mean, it's one of those things where if we were boxing, you'd continue to look at the referee going, are you going to do anything? Because I don't want to hit this guy anymore. And that's how close they are to going. Pfft. So that's an interesting thing for sure. And then you got Greenland. Greenland, we're going to have to, you guys understand, Greenland is very vital because of the minerals. And do you know they have drugs there? So many drugs. Snowballs, they call them. Very dangerous. The kids kills bazillions it killed 700 million Americans last year. And we need it. We want it. We're going to buy it. We're not going to buy it. We already have a base there. What do we, you want the minerals underneath. You see the business side of it. There you go. Just be honest. Just be honest. But you've sold everything to, and that's the funny thing, watching the echo chamber get slapped back in the face with, we're not going to nation build. We're not going to, we're going to be peace. We're isolationist. This. And then, no, that's not what you are. It's not. None of that's what you are. So just be honest. Tell me it's business. Okay. That's at least, that's what you gotta love Trump. I mean, but he also realizes, hey, fucking people will believe anything I say. I tell him for years, the last, it's fentanyl, all this stuff. It's nothing. None of that. Go look at the indictment. Do you know that they're charging him with gun charges? He's the leader of a country, illegitimate or not. They're charging him with trying to procure guns. You think they put that in there? This would be hilarious. Let's put this in there. So, again, just be honest. That's all I ask. I think that's all we should ask. You got to read between the lines. Now, all of these things being said, you know what matters most still? For the average person, you and I and everybody else? The economy. Unless you live in Minneapolis and you've got a situation where either you are an immigrant, you've got family that are immigrants, or any of this, unless you're in that situation, this is theater and whatever. You're not paying, you're looking at it. But what it is, it's a great way to divide and fight and argue and everybody try to make a point. Venezuela, I mean, gas is down. I mean, is anybody freaking out about, like, I'm pissed that we're going in. I don't want to spend any more money. I don't, what do we get out of it? I think those are all fair questions. But the reality is it's still about the economy, stupid. The ACA is done and dusted as far as getting any kind of help with the premiums. And that was broke dick for a long time. Everybody's known it. But how many years are we into this thing and you haven't fixed for it? Nobody's got a fix for it. None. You're talking about giving money to people that you're going to be able to put into potentially a health savings account, which you can't use for the most expensive part of it, which is your premiums. So you're just going to roll the dice for a lot of people. And that is 22 of the 24 million people. What that does, it makes the pool smarter. But it's like, well, I'm not on that. Yeah, but when that pool shrinks, guess what? The same people that insure you insure other people in that pool. And you know what happens? Your premiums go up. You've got unemployment rising. You've got underemployment, which is something that's not talked about. You've got a lot of young kids. And I say this as something that I think you need to pay attention to. Young children know, young adults, young kids, 20, 24, they're coming out, they're getting into their first gig, they're hoping, and they're finding out there ain't shit for them. Right? They're living with 4 or 5 roommates, or they're still living at home. They've got no real opportunity to work in whatever field they got their job in. And if they do, it's part-time. They're underemployed or underemployed. And when the young have no real prospect for the future and they're frustrated, they look and they say, it's your fault. You've lied to us. You, right there, have played this game. We're not going to do it. The reason that Iran is ready to tip over is if it's like, well, it's because of Israel, it's because of the U.S. It's big. Yeah, the sanctions hurt. The reality is, though, the average age in Iran is like almost 32 years old. 60% of them are under the age of 25. The revolution is something they hear about or maybe read about in books. What they know is oppression and lack. They're over it. They want jeans, Coca-Cola, and to be able to walk down the street without some moral police coming up to them. They want to be part of humanity. That's what they want. It's the young. We've seen it in Burma. We have seen it in several places. The young take to the streets and they're angry. And there's lots of them. I'm not talking about overthrow, but you have to think about when they feel like they do not have anything, their desperation becomes anger and they activate that anger. And that will be in the midterms. So all of this is some chaos. There's some shit going down. It's always about the economy. Doesn't mean there are other things that aren't happening. But when you hear that it's the best, it's the greatest, if you're 65 and you're retired and you don't have a house payment, and maybe you got a second house and your house may be paid for and you've got a pension maybe and a couple $1 million in the stock market and you are drawing off that and every month you're putting money away and you're looking around going, these kids are just ridiculous. They just don't get it. And you bought your house for, as one person said, 7 gooseberries, and now it's worth $1.8 million, or it's worth $600,000. And you bought it for 50. Yeah, the economy's looking great. If you're 32 and you're having to go to your 401k so you can cover some bills, and then you're worried about the Trump administration now that they're going to come in and start going hardcore after people aren't paying their student loans and start garnishing your wages. Yeah, you're looking at things in a little different way. So it is that K-shaped economy, and it is a very interesting time. There's no doubt about that. All right. Do me a favor, like and subscribe to this, share to your friends. Check out all of my social media at Chad Benson Show, whether YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, all of that stuff. And go to chadbensonshow.com. Check out all the cool things we've got there. And, of course, I'm live 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Pacific, 9 to noon on the old East Coast. And then you can catch me later on in the afternoon as well. You guys have a blessed rest of your day. We will do it.